Hello and welcome to the Retro Asylum. A quick public service announcement before the show starts. Unfortunately, when we recorded this, one of our esteemed hosts had their settings picking up the wrong microphone. So I'm afraid the audio quality is going to be a little bit iffier than usual. I'm not someone who's bothered by that kind of thing, but if you are, this might be one that you want to skip, but hopefully not, because I think it's a good episode. Oh, and by the way, that esteemed host was me, Chris. Sorry. Anyway, on with the show.
You just say when.
Hello and welcome back to the Retro Asylum. See this, listeners? New host, same old crap that I have to deal with here on the Retro Asylum. So welcome back to the UK's #1 retro gamer podcast. I'm joined by my good friend and co-host of the Playthrough podcast and the newest member of the NWO. The newest, the newest member of the Retro Asylum regular team, Mr. James Middleton. Say hello, mate.
Hello, how are we doing?
Yeah, so it's good to have you over here as well.
Yeah, obviously, long time listener, long time listener,
but also an irregular podcaster over here on the Retro Asylum as well, because you've done a few episodes in recent years, haven't you?
Yeah,
most infamously, the one with the S word, the little blue cretin.
Well, I like to think that maybe Dean looked at the numbers for those episodes and thought they probably want more of them. So,
do you reckon?
Yeah,
I reckon about 3 people listened to that one right to the end. That was one. No, not at all. They were really good. I don't know what I'm talking about. I actually quite like Sonic.
But you're coming out soon.
You're famous for being the world's #1 biggest Sonic fan.
No, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I swore off them. I swore off them. I think I've not. Have I played one this year?
Oh, what?
I think I might. I'm trying to think. I think I did. I did play what I played. The triple. Yeah.
I'm sure you
Triple Trouble. I played the fan remake of Triple Trouble.
You trolled Mads by saying that you playing a Sonic game because it had been too long.
Yeah. Other than that, I've swore off them for now.
I think we. When was it that we did that Sonic episode? The Master System Sonic, was that last year?
That was last year.
Was it last summer?
Yeah. Sonic 2 won it on a Master System, which in hindsight was probably the wrong Sonic, really. But
yeah. So you, Mads, and Mark, wasn't it?
So that was me, Mads, and Mark, and then we did Sonic CD. Yes. That was me, Mads, and Mark as well.
Because that was your famous choose the best ever Sonic game to highlight what a great series it is.
It was, but again,
there he goes. He's going to justify it again.
It was at the time there wasn't a lot of talk about Sonic. Everyone knows Sonic 2, don't they? So I thought, well, let's try something a bit different, and it bit me massively.
I wonder if all seems a bit quiet, doesn't it, after the most recent Sonic game on the Sonic front? How did that sell? Do you know?
Not very well.
It's a shame. It came out almost exactly the same time as Super Mario Wonder, didn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think Sega have gone on record of saying the sales weren't what they expected.
Right.
But it was an expensive release as well, and I think it wasn't a bad game.
Yeah.
It was all right. It was like a typical Sonic game, really. There was good stuff in there. There was bad stuff in there. And it was just all right.
Did you finish it?
Yeah, I finished it. Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah. They got Generations, the remake of Generations with the extra content that's coming either this month or next month. I think.
Yeah, because that's well thought of, isn't it? That Sonic Generations.
Generations was really good. No, that was Xbox 360, PS3, right. And then I think it's backwards compatible for the Xbox One.
Okay.
So yeah, there's no, for me, other than this, I'm not interested in Shadow. I'm not that much of a diehard. But so there's no.
I say it's all quiet on the Sonic front, but it's not really, is it? Because you've got the remake of Generations coming out, and you've got the Shadow the Hedgehog game. So actually, they well,
that is it's the Shadow stuff is like download
sorry,
content
I thought you meant that
was
was a separate game.
Yeah, no, right. The Shadow stuff is download content or extra content for Generations.
I see. Well, a bit like kind of Bowser's Fury kind of thing.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. The franchise is going, isn't it?
Yeah, it's still going. But I'm going to be playing Astro Bot.
I know.
So
have you pre-ordered that?
I have, mate. Yeah. And the controller. I got a bit worried actually. The other day, yesterday it was. I had a look on Game. I don't know why. I don't know why. For the life of me, I never use Game, but for some reason it popped up like these controllers, these Astrobot controllers popped up into my feed. So I logged into Game, my Game account, like blew the dust off the card and everything. Logged
it's like, hello, are you still switched on? Hello.
Yeah. Mike Ashley, he's still there. So I pre-ordered it anyway. Checked it a couple of weeks ago. Everything was fine, no issues. Went on yesterday and they've changed over their app and everything. And like my pre-order wasn't there. I was like, what's going on?
What's in your pre-order through Game?
I ordered the controller through Game, yeah. Normally I use Simply Games, but you couldn't get the controller through Simply Games, so I pre-ordered, or you could use Amazon, I suppose, but I used Game for some bizarre
You went
reason.
with the most solid of video games retailers in terms of where to put your money behind the pre-order.
Absolutely, yeah. While I'm there, I'll pick up a pair of jeans in like Sports Direct. And,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, maybe a new hoodie or something, you know.
You might even get a Newcastle central midfielder if you're lucky.
So I went on the app and it disappeared. I was like, oh no. This happened to me with Breath of the Wild as well back in the day. Anyway, I went on to chat and it is still
Middleton's on the rampage.
So game chat is still live. There are still people on the other end of game chat.
I think the online business is okay, isn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway,
it's just one of those stores I've just like don't have anything to do with anymore. It's pretty sad, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think the bricks and mortar business is all but gone, isn't it? So if there are still stores open, they'd soon be closing. But
yeah, I know we've only got one in Bristol now, whereas we used to have loads.
So I think the online business is okay. Yeah, it's one of those where I think it's a separate, it's run as a separate business and whatnot. So it's insulated from what goes on in the bricks and mortar. So you're probably all right.
Yeah, but it's still there anyway, mate. I've still got my controller with the little
Why had it disappeared then?
They've changed over the systems.
Oh, okay. So it just,
pre-orders hadn't migrated over.
Yeah. Yeah, so I checked. So I had a little moment and I thought, I'm looking forward to playing Astrobot on Friday. I'll just check my Amazon pre-order just to make sure. And I'd only ordered the controller. But then I thought, that's all right. Because like with other things I'm playing at the moment, I probably wouldn't play it on Friday. Or probably would play it on Friday for about half an hour and then switch it off again. So I thought, I'm quite happy that I don't have the game. Like the game is fine. Like we'll be able to buy the game at any time. But the controllers were hard to get.
They're all sold out now. I know. Because I had a quick panic look when I saw it had gone missing from my account.
Yeah.
They're sold out at Sony and it's really Amazon. Tough as nails.
So I subscribed to one of those, back in stock alert things. And it just so happened that I was just messing around on Twitter and I got a notification for like back in stock for the controller. So I immediately kind of went onto the PlayStation website and got one direct from PlayStation. But I then looked again about 90 seconds later and they'd gone. They'd sold out. Might be worth a few bob, mate.
I know, mate. I don't want to. I might not open it.
I might tell the kids, look, this is going to make you rich.
I know. But then I'm not. I keep telling myself I'm not a collector. Have you ever heard of that?
Whatever. Hang on. I'm looking at, so listeners can't see this, but I'm looking at Jim's video feed in the background. I can see about 6 consoles, an arcade cab, some Star Wars figures, a Rock Band guitar, and he tells us he's not a collector.
But I found, I don't know if you've ever heard of this CLZ, this app. You can basically, you can catalogue all your stuff. So I've got a load of stuff in this box downstairs because I've had to downsize a bit in here because I've run out of room. So I was like, just go through this box and this got this little satisfying beep when you scan the barcode in, and I was getting really distracted. Kate was doing a nut because I was supposed to be doing other stuff, and there's me just going beep, like I'm in Sainsbury's or something.
So what do they do then? What, they'll come and buy it from you?
No, you just scan it into a database. So
it tells you logs the fact that you own
tells you what you've got. You can tick whether it's complete in box, just the disc or cartridge. It tells you it links to price charting, so it tells you what the average sort of sale prices are.
That is quite good, actually. Have you got all of your games on that then?
No, I just started doing it the other day and just annoying the wife.
That would be quite addictive, to be fair.
And I've always said to her, because I watch these YouTubers, and I'll be like, I'm not a collector. They're collectors. They don't play games. I play games. I'm not a collector.
What does she think about that?
It doesn't know.
No, I bet she does.
Yeah.
Jen calls me a hoarder, and I absolutely say that I would admit to being a collector, but I'm not a hoarder. I collect what I collect, but I'm pretty ruthless with everything else.
Yeah.
Non-gaming related stuff, I just don't care for. I'll throw them out. I don't collect anything else but gaming related stuff. I will not throw out a magazine, no matter if it's only one. Even if I only have one magazine, if I've got a random CMVG, I won't throw it out.
No. Well, it's not just gaming, I suppose. Maybe I'm a bit hoarder because there's she found a couple of Carp World magazines the other day, and I was like, "Oh, you can't." She was like, "Can we throw them?" I was like, "No, you can't throw them. The magazine's defunct now. They've stopped going. You can't throw them." Who's going to?
I want to read them.
But then I went through some of my gaming mags this week looking for Castlevania IV stuff. So
yeah, it is.
You never know, do you? You never know.
They are useful research tools, and I don't know whether you know, I've shouted this out before on this podcast, but there is an amazing website called parkproductions.co.uk.
Yeah.
And that guy hosts a complete searchable index of all the retro gamer magazines. It's absolutely invaluable. If he listens to this, I'm really grateful, because you can just go onto that website, you can do a keyword search, and then it'll tell you what issue. It was it was this feature, it was a making of. It was in, I'm sitting here now with one of them on my desk. Otherwise, you're going to have to go through each of them and just flick through.
Yeah. Which
I wanted to, and I've again, long-time listeners will have heard me say this before, but I'm doing the same thing for the Edge magazines. I'm copying this guy, but for Edge. It takes so blooming long.
So you're just doing that yourself on an Excel spreadsheet or something here?
Yeah, and then I'll need to tart it up, make it pretty and do something Mads has said that he'll help me. Once I've got my index, he'll help me make it nice and searchable and put some kind of intelligence behind it and make it look nice. But it takes so long. I mean, there are over 400 Edge magazines. I'm only up to 92.
It might be buffering though, mate, if Mads does it.
It's buffering. It's definitely buffering. Mads will make it buffer, no doubt.
Mads will make it buffer in the background.
Exactly that. So, in time-honoured RA tradition, what the devil have you been up to?
I've been doing a Ewan, spreading myself far too thin over too many games, over far too many games.
See, this didn't happen to you before you met me and started podcasting, did it?
No, well, I just never finished anything. So I play stuff for 10 minutes and move on to the next shiny thing.
That's naughty. You can't do that.
Yeah, I know, but now I've got a problem where I've got lots of shiny things that are unfinished.
Yeah, this is it. So what have you been playing?
I've been playing a bit of Vectrex. So a little while ago, I installed the buzz-off kit for the Vectrex, so mine no longer makes that horrific buzzing noise. Now I know
that works, does it?
Yeah.
100% effective.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I didn't realise. So I'm not too technical on the Vectrex. So if I get this wrong, if I get this wrong, listeners, then forgive me, and I'm sure Dean will pick me up on it. But I swear, like, there's some games that have put the buzzing into the game because they know it's going on in the Vectrex in the background. If that makes sense.
Yeah, almost like M2 emulating slowdown into Super Castlevania 4.
It's really weird, weird. But yeah, but mine's silent now unless you're playing a game with the buzzers as part of the soundtrack. So again, weird. It's one of those things. Some people like the buzzing. I didn't. I really didn't. But yeah, I've been playing a newish game called Unicorn Galaxy.
Yeah.
Which is
So what's that about then?
So it's just a normal sort of Gallagher style shooter. Bottom of the screen, you're shooting enemies waves as they come down, but instead of you flying a ship, you're controlling a little glowing unicorn.
So it's a Gallagher clone, is it?
Gallagher, yeah, not really a clone, because you've got like the left and right movement, but then at the angles at the ends of the screen, you sort of come up a little bit as well. Okay. You've got no forward and backwards movement. Like on something like Gallagher 3, you can go forwards and backwards on that one, whereas on this one, you just got the sideways movement, apart from in the edges of the screen. But yeah, no, it's good. It's an addictive little game. Yeah, it's got a nice little backstory, and that the guy that developed it, he based the game on some drawings that his daughter's friend did or something. So it's a nice little story.
That's mad.
I know.
But he designed a game around it?
Yeah. So his daughter's or his friend's daughter did these sketches for an imaginary game, and then he used that as inspiration to make Unicorn Galaxy.
And this is a physical game you've got, right? So it comes on
it comes on a cart. So it doesn't come in a full size case. So like some of the Vectrex games, like the new Vectrex games, like Verizon, and there's the Sheriff sort of the port, if you like. They come in proper full-size Vectrex cases with the inlays and the carts and everything else. This one comes in a mini box, but there are overlays and there is artwork available. So if you go onto Vectrex Friends Unite on Facebook, there's files on there, so you can download all the artwork and you can make your own boxes if you want.
That's cool, isn't it? And it's quite cool that they make all that stuff available.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
It's very much the spirit of the Vectrex community, though, isn't it? In terms of like sharing this stuff.
Yeah. And like, cool. There's a Gyrus.
Yeah.
So there's a port of that's just come out. So I've just ordered that, and again, that's proper, like almost like a full retail release, and that's going to come with an overlay. Then? Say again.
So
sorry?
Who publishes this stuff? Like with the kind of the computer stuff, you've got these little publishers, Bitmap Softs and all of this stuff, who will take this and they'll put it on the media and they'll put some nice stuff with it and they'll publish it. Are these things all published by the actual people who make the games?
Yeah, so a lot of it's always like community based.
Is it?
It's just people in the community, like devs in the community that have made it. So like Binary Star have got a few games out. Oh, there's loads.
They'll print it to the media themselves, and they'll do a manual, and they'll do that all themselves.
Yeah, which is a lot of the time why a lot of it's done in like small production runs.
Yeah, imagine, like almost made to order stuff.
Yeah, because even something like Verizon, which that blew up massively when that came out, was it a couple of years ago, something like that. But that again was just one guy doing it in small production runs.
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? It's such an amazing. We've said it so many times, but 40 years after the Vectrex was in its heyday, you can still go and buy Vectrex games, and that's so cool.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You know, it's not like Vectrex was the Amiga and was this global superpower. You know, it was relatively sold in small numbers, didn't it? Yet there's such a die-hard community of people keeping it going. It's cool.
Yeah, it is. I mean, don't get me wrong. It is good and bad. Obviously, like the small production runs mean that some things are really tricky to get hold of. If you're not there.
Not cheap either.
Yeah, not cheap. Sometimes the the wait for products can be a little bit frustrating because it's just one guy. He's not doing it on as a business. He's doing it in his spare time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, like anything, the swings and roundabouts to it in there, but yeah.
Most people will be patient, of course, but not everyone.
I think so, yeah. I think most people sort of appreciate that that they're still doing that you can still get new games, which is
you always get the odd one though, don't you?
You do. And they're normally pretty vocal as well, are they?
I paid for this 2 days ago and I still haven't got my thing.
Yeah. Whereas the majority of people will sort of sit there, won't they, and sit there quietly and wait.
Yeah, exactly.
There we go.
Exactly.
That's life, isn't it?
So what else have you been playing?
I've been playing the NES World Champs, mate. On the Switch. Have you managed to have a look at that? Oh, it's a classic Nintendo mixed bag.
So if any of our retro listeners don't know what this is, this was basically, and it's an official Nintendo product released for the Switch recently, a couple of months ago, which contains a bunch of challenge editions of famous Nintendo games. Is that right?
Yeah. So
I don't have it myself.
Yes. Okay. So back in the day, you obviously had the World Championships, Nintendo World Champs.
Yeah.
This expands on that, whereas you got the 3 Mario Brothers games. What else we got? There's Excite Bike, Zelda 1 and 2.
Balloon Kid?
Balloon, yeah.
It's always a famous one, isn't it, for like challenge runs and whatnot.
Ice Climbers, that's in there.
Yeah.
Donkey Kong. So all the NES ports. There's no arcade stuff in there. It's just the NES ports. And each game has got a set of challenges. There's more depending on certain games. So something like Mario has got a ton of challenges, whereas Donkey Kong will have less.
So I'm thinking like...
Excite Bike has got even less, do you know what I mean?
So I'm thinking like Games Master challenges. Like one of the challenges might be like collect 100 rings in 3 minutes kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they start off really simple. So for Mario Brothers 2, for example, the first challenge you drop from the start of the level and you have to get through the first door. But there's a timer running from when it starts to when it finishes. And it's great. It's like you're just shaving little microseconds off your time.
And there's like leaderboards and stuff like that.
Well, this is it. This is the problem. So each week you get a new set of challenges.
Do you?
Well, yeah. So
that's
you've
quite
got.
Cool.
So I don't know how many it is exactly, but say there's 100 challenges in the game.
Yeah.
Each week it will pick. Nintendo will pick 5 challenges out of those 100, and that will be your World Championships, if you like, for that week.
Oh, that's cool.
And that changes every week.
So you haven't just got access to like 100 different challenges all at once. It's like, right, this week you're doing these 5 things on this particular
You have
day.
got access to, as long as you've unlocked them, you've got access to all of them.
Oh, okay.
But then Nintendo pick a set amount every week.
I quite like that. Yeah, so it narrows it down.
And that's like your featured challenges for that week, if you like.
Yeah.
And then you can do them. And then next week, when it changes over, you can go back and have a look at the times and how the best people
I
did
see,
it.
yeah.
But there's no leaderboards. So, like, if you've got it, so say you pick the game up and you're like, well, I'll see how Jimbo's getting on. We'll have a little score competition. You can't. There's no friends tracking. There's no leaderboards. There's nothing.
That's nuts.
It's ridiculous. This game's crying out for that.
They're rubbish at these social features, though, aren't they?
They're terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Like, how could, like, even like look at all the arcade archived releases on Switch and PlayStation and all that. Like they all have leaderboards, friend leaderboards, global leader. Like how hard can it be?
They have score modes, so you can't
caravan mode.
Caravan mode. Yeah, so you can't use save states and all the rest of it. In that,
it can't be that hard to implement that, surely.
Well, it's Nintendo, isn't it? They make it.
So what's your incentive then? Like what is your incentive? Just to beat your own time?
So my incentive really at the moment has just been just to keep unlocking the games.
Oh really?
Yeah.
And
so
do you get the full games if you wanted to play them just normally? Can you play?
No, but some of the challenges will be so like one of the challenges for Super Mario Brothers is to get through the game.
Right. What, the whole game?
The whole game.
Blimey.
And I think that's like one of the most difficult challenges.
Can you use warps?
Yeah, you can use warps.
Okay.
And obviously then that'll give you your time.
Yeah.
And you get a rating on your time. So if you get an A rating, then you get a little sort of like achievement pin badge, and you know what I'm like with them achievements. So there is like a bit,
and that's where the compulsion comes from.
Yeah. Right. But that game would be amazing with leaderboards and stuff. It'd be amazing.
So do you find like you just keep going back to it and just say, "I'll just have a quick blast"?
Yeah, just drop in for a quick go here and there sort of thing. But
yeah, it doesn't sound like. I mean, it didn't really appeal to me when it was announced. It doesn't sound like my cup of tea, but I can see like because you're a proper arcade gamer, aren't you? I mean, all Retro Asylum listeners probably know this by now, but you're really into your arcade games, high score challenges.
Yeah.
So I suppose it does appeal to that inner sense of competitor, doesn't it?
Yeah, but then they take it away by not having the leaderboards.
Yeah, it's a shit like that seems
just
balmy
bizarre
to me.
I don't know who signs off on these things.
Well, I mean, for so long, I mean, even now, the Switch's social features are terrible, aren't they? I mean, remember when the Switch first launched, though, and you needed that separate app?
The chat app, that's still a thing.
Well, I mean, you still can't voice chat on the Switch?
No.
That's stupid, isn't it?
I haven't been on it for ages.
Like 7 years into the Switch's, I don't play multiplayer games on the Switch. 7 years into the Switch's lifespan, though, and you can't voice chat.
No, I played a little bit of Splatoon 2 when that came out, and I
mean, there was nothing that's exactly the same.
And you had to log into the chat app to chat on Splatoon 2. It is laughable. Man. It's laughable, isn't it?
I mean, that is something that they surely have to fix with Switch 2.
You say that, but I don't think they will.
That has to have all of that stuff built in, doesn't it, from day one? It has to. Like I love the Switch as a platform. I absolutely love it. Probably
if anything, the Switch has gone backwards with that sort of stuff, because you look at like the Wii U, and that had loads. That had like the Miiverse, didn't it, where you could go on all these like message boards and stuff that were sort of only like internal to the Wii U. But, so it's kind of almost gone backwards a little bit.
Yeah, I mean they've changed it all up though, haven't they? They got rid of the Virtual Console. They're now doing this thing with the Switch Online, which I quite like.
Which I like as well. Yeah,
getting these kind of curated. You know, I quite like that. You know, just drip feeding a few games every now and again is cool.
Yeah.
But it feels like after the Wii U, it was like, right, we're just ditching everything. We're almost just starting from scratch.
Yeah.
So everything that we had on the Wii U, let's just get rid of it.
It never existed.
It never existed. Wii U's a terrible nightmare.
We what? No.
Did not exist.
We who? No.
Exactly. Anything else to report?
What else to report? What else have I been up to? Evercade, mate. Just a bit of Evercade, playing some Evercade games on the Namco.
What was your high score on Mappy?
I don't want to talk about it.
It's less than mine.
It's way less than everyone else's.
Well, I was really into it until everyone got really good, and then
I know.
It's like okay, everyone's now better than me. So
it had that. Was his name? What was it? Pix or Paul? Was it? Who used to come in on the shoot 'em ups when we played the shmups?
That was Pix. He's not posted a score on this, though, has he?
Well, no, I think his thing is shmups, isn't it?
Yeah,
but yeah, he just used to come in and just destroy everyone.
I think Monster Hyde is our Pix, isn't he? I think he's the one who's
on Mappy, yeah.
Or Plasticman. No, Plasticman. More on this when we do the Namco Evercade episode. But yeah, Plasticman, 202,000. Mate, that is 150,000 more than you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to say I'm sat on a score, but I'm not.
Even Mads has got more than you, mate. Gotta sort that out.
I know, but
do you know when I got over?
Yeah, but I finished Mappy Kids, haven't I? So that's got to be worth like 200,000. That's true. That's got to be worth 200,000 points.
That's like finishing a Souls game.
Pretty much.
How many people in the world have actually completed Mappy Kids? And did you get the good ending?
No.
No, I didn't either.
Yeah, I don't think you can.
Those mini games are terrible, man.
They're terrible. And I had enough, right? At the end, I had enough money to buy the last thing that I was missing. Yeah. And I did the mini game.
Lost it all. Those mini games are not fun.
I'm never ever picking that game up ever again.
And you know what? I actually thought the platforming was all right.
It was all right. It's not.
It was all right. I mean,
it's not Mario, is it? Or even like the Disney NES games, but it's all right.
It was okay, but those mini games actually spoil what was a moderately playable game.
I think some of them are better than others. There's the flag one, which is just outright frustrating.
All for like the spot the difference.
I quite like that.
Yeah, but it's like you're looking at an 8-bit still image.
True.
On a tiny little screen. That's like some of the differences. Even when I knew they were there, I still couldn't see.
Oh yeah, some of the differences will be like a pixel.
It's like a pixel's difference. Oh yeah, the computer's got it. No.
Yeah.
We can talk about that in more detail, but I've enjoyed that. So I've still got to play. The only game I really still need to have a good go at is Battle Cars, which is the Mode 7 Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Have you had a go?
Yeah.
Yeah, that got well reviewed at the time.
Did it really?
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, decent. Well, again, no Mario Kart, but
it's not Mario Kart, though. Definitely
Is
not.
it not good?
Oh, it's not even Street Racer.
Is it not?
No.
No. Well, that's the only game I really do. I need to spend an evening playing that. And then once I've done that, I feel like I'm ready to record that episode.
I need to have another look at the... what was the... I can't remember what it's called now. I've got the thing just up here. Let me have a look.
Yeah, the only other one I've not spent much time with is Libble Rabble. But I have played that quite a bit in the past.
Yeah, that's quite good, there.
Yeah,
Star Luster.
Yeah,
not
so
that's... Not a clue what I'm doing with that.
You need to read the manual, mate. Chris O'Regan will tell you. Shout out to Chris O'Regan. He will tell you that you need to read the manual.
Oh, but it just goes in straight lines.
No, I believe it's quite good, Star Luster.
Do you?
So Star Luster is the Namco version of that Atari game. I can't remember it. I'm blanking out. There's an Atari game, a very famous Atari 8-bit game, which and it's basically a port, a clone of that, where you've got to go onto the galaxy map. You've got to go and liberate the bases. It's good. It's worth having a read in the manual and putting a bit of time into it.
Okay, I'll give it another look.
It's not a bad game. I mean, look, it's no Elite, and it's not gonna blow your mind in any way. But it's definitely worth a go.
Yeah,
in my opinion. But yeah, that episode is coming up soon. We've got a few episodes in the pipeline. We've got an episode on Resident Evil coming up. Mads's
you can't say it like that, Chris. You can't say it like that.
Why?
Resident Evil.
Oh, you're very good at that. Resident Evil. And then we've got the Namco episode. And then what's next in Evercade? So after Namco wants it, Data East, isn't it?
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Yeah, I hope you're feeling the mood for some scrolling beat.
Oh, it is, yeah. Data East, yeah.
Bit of Bad Dudes.
Bad Dudes. Bad game.
Very good. Do you reckon? I've never played it.
Have you not? Okay.
No, I'm looking forward to it.
I'll keep
Burger Times on that as well. A game club classic.
Yes, that's been a game club game, hasn't it?
It's a long time ago, a few years ago now. I picked up, speaking of the Evercade, I picked up the Tomb Raider cart last week.
How is it? How does it play?
I think it's... I love the original Tomb Raider. I do. I absolutely love it. I mean, I've got a massive fondness for that era of gaming, particularly on the PS1. So the original Resident Evil, Tomb Raider, visually they've not aged brilliantly, but I have such strong nostalgia for that game. So I played about an hour of it last Friday. My only problem is I really don't like the Evercade VS pad. It just doesn't feel right, it doesn't feel nice in the hand, I don't think. So I need to pick up one of the 8-bit do USB controllers so that I can have something that feels good. But it's Tomb Raider, man, and it runs perfectly.
I've not tried, but would a DualShock work if you connected that via USB?
I don't know.
Because that'd be perfect, obviously, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I know my arcade stick works. If I plug that in by USB, that'll work.
Well, why wouldn't it, I suppose?
I'd give it a go. And I know you can change the control layout as well on that arcade stick.
Yeah.
So I'd say give that a go. Because that'd be perfect.
But it's a great value proposition, that Tomb Raider card, though. I mean, Tomb Raider 1, 2 and 3 for £18. I think it's absolutely amazing value. I mean, I could play through those games repeatedly and have fun. Like, I love exploring those caves, and I think, to be honest, my favourite one is probably Tomb Raider 2.
Yeah.
But I think Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3 are absolute classics. I mean, the series kind of went a little bit after that, didn't it? But those three.
When the first time that I saw Tomb Raider, I imagine it's probably one of those moments for a lot of people. I was still rocking the 16-bit generation.
Yeah, me too.
And then my next door neighbour had a PlayStation, and I saw Tomb Raider and was like, oh my god. Yeah,
when you see that, Resident Evil, Final Fantasy VII, I mean, it was mind blowing, the leap to whatever I was still, so I'd not long upgraded my Amiga for a PC, but my PC was really, so I had Turok, which was a great game and looked amazing, but really I was playing Championship Manager almost all the time. And then my mate Billy, he had the PlayStation and he had Final Fantasy Tactics, Hooky, of course, because Tactics didn't get a European release. He had Tactics, he had Tomb Raider, and he had Resident Evil. And I went round to his, and that was it. So that was it. That Christmas of whatever year it was, 96 or whatever. I was like, right, Mum and Dad, there's only one thing I ever want ever again, and it's a PlayStation.
Yeah.
It was like, it's hard to, because now the leaps between generations are relatively small. It's hard to really get our heads around what a leap the PlayStation represented, isn't it?
Oh, mate! The first time that I saw Ridge Racer running on it, I was like, "Oh my god!"
I know. Yeah, it's mind-blowing.
There's nothing. There's nothing that can touch it.
No, we were going from Mega Drives, Amigas, Mega Drives, Super Nintendos.
Yeah.
You know, I was lucky enough. I had a PC. But
see, I didn't. I never had. My mum and dad never had a decent PC. The games that it was run was like Ultimate Football Manager.
But
I think Broken Sword. I think maybe it ran Broken Sword as well.
It took about 2 hours to get the sound working, because you had to go in and you had to set it up. I mean, the PlayStation, you plugged it in, you stuck a CD in, and it just felt so futuristic as well. Yeah,
it sounds stupid to say it now, but like a CD, and you put in the CD in, and then you get
that, and the game plays off the CD.
Intro, that boom. Yeah. It's just like it just felt like something's changed here. Like gaming's moved.
Gaming on CDs wasn't new by this point, but it was new for most of us.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? I had a 3DO, but even that ran off CD. The one-speed CD drive took about 4 hours to load Road Rash. The PlayStation was just a leap, and I think Tomb Raider holds up really well. One day we'll get to it in about 25 years.
What card number is that? Like 30 something, is it?
I will tell you. It is 40.
40. That's a little while away yet. Then don't be holding your breath for that one.
40, man. But yeah, so I'm really pleased with that, and I got the double pack with the Thalamus.
Oh right,
pack for the Thalamus pack that came out on the same day, which I've not even had in the system yet. But like most of my Evercade cards, I've not had it. It's not ventured into the system.
As in, have you not even gone through with the little like, what do you call it? Like a little carousel mode now, isn't there? Where you can you plug your cartridge in and it adds it to a carousel if you've got it fully updated. And then
I need to try that. So I think you mentioned this, or I don't know whether you or Andy Gilmore mentioned it, and I need to try that.
So every available cart, including the ones that are upcoming, are on this carousel.
Wow. And they can graze out the cards?
They're grayed out unless you've loaded it into your Evercade. Yeah.
I'll be on funstock.co.uk like a flash.
I know, it's bad. Isn't it? Well, this is like that CLZ app, isn't it? Before you know it, you've got carts and manuals all over the floor, and
I'm missing one. Damn it, I'm missing one. I'm gonna get it. So that's coming up. That's definitely so. That I think we're pleased with how that first Evercade episode went. So whether or not we continue to do the video format, I don't know, but we're certainly going to be cracking on through those Evercade cartridges. We need to get Mark back on the show, get him on one, and get well soon, Mark. He's been having some trouble over the weekend with a kidney stone or two, so I hope he's all right. Bless him.
It sounds painful.
Yeah, not good. Not good. Some other guest appearances as well, depending on the card, so that'll be good. I need to just stop playing Oracle of Seasons, though, because that game, man, has taken over my life in the past week. I've barely played anything else since I first fired that up. What a game. Incredible.
Yeah. It's like a full-blown Zelda game, isn't it? In a Game Boy.
Yeah.
I don't know. We saw it with Link's Awakening, but I don't know.
Oh, it's generational leaps ahead of that, in my opinion. I struggle to believe it's a Game Boy Color game. You know, it's an 8-bit game, and that absolutely boggles my mind. At this point, it is my second favourite Zelda game. It's everything I want, like the pacing, the structure, the little senses of discovery, the little moments. It's just everything I want in a Zelda game. I absolutely love it. I can't really say enough good things about it. And we'll be back, hopefully, to talk about it, because it is the current community playthrough game, following the game that we're here to talk about, which I'm not even sure we've even mentioned how rubbish are we, Super Castlevania IV, which we should probably start talking about, mate. But before we do that, any news that you've spotted in the press, anything that you want to share with us?
There was a couple of bits. I don't know if you missed the Ant Stream is now coming over to PlayStation.
Oh, that's been in the pipeline for a while, hasn't it?
It has, yeah, but it's been dated now, so it's coming out this week.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, the 6th of September, so that's good. It's been on Xbox for ages, hasn't it? And obviously PC for even longer.
The more places to play retro games, the better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think it's reasonably well thought of on Xbox as well, as I've never played it myself.
I've never tried it on Xbox, only on PC. But
yeah, cool. Yeah, more ways to play the games that we love.
Yeah, definitely.
Again, curated, legally well emulated, challenges, all that good stuff. So yeah, good for them.
Yeah, and I get, like, if you just, it's a lot of money to lay out, but $100. So I'm guessing they'll just do £100 for it. Then that's a lifetime membership.
Yeah, it's a lot of money though, isn't it?
It is a lot of money
to pay out in one go. What are the other payments options? Can you pay monthly?
£40 or $40 a year.
Is it really okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that gets you £40 a year, gets you absolutely everything across the platform.
Gets you everything, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, in that sense, you know, if you start to do the numbers and say, okay, well, by the time I've done 3 of those, £100 gets me a lifetime. Is there anything that you can just play without sort of pay as you go kind of thing? Do you know?
They used to be on PC, but they changed all the pricing structure over. And then I haven't gone back after getting a Mister, really. So
yeah, but this is it. Yeah, but it's cool. I reckon it's great that people have got the option to use it should they want to.
Yeah, and like I say, it's all legit as well, which is
exactly, and that's a good thing, right? That's what we advocate for. So good on Ant Stream for doing that as well.
Yeah, and then the only other thing was the Sega Mania magazine.
Yeah, what's happening there?
That had it's come back. So that had a successful Kickstarter recently.
Oh, that's cool.
So that was in a shout out to them guys. Well done on that.
That was on hiatus, was it?
It was, yeah. There's a few things went off in the background with it, I think. But
no, you're not. Surely you don't mean that there's drama in the retro game community?
Yeah, but issue 8 has now been kickstarted and is on its way.
Cool.
And they're also doing. You can order the back issues now as well, cool. 1 to 7. So yeah, it's good to see.
Yeah, good for them. Yeah, the more stuff like that, the better, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
You were chatting on the Telegram about Debug magazine. I definitely need to get my hands on some of that. That thing looks really good.
I've been ever since getting that Steam Deck. Really, I used to play the indie games on the Switch, but I don't know. They just feel perfect on that Steam Deck, and I ain't got to worry about performance issues like you do with a Switch. Whereas, So I'm loving sort of building up this like little indie sort of back catalogue. The only problem is I've just got this massive Steam backlog now.
Jim's pile of shame gets ever larger.
Yeah, it's getting everywhere.
You can't put them on your CZL app or whatever you call it, can you?
You can't, no.
Your digital games.
No.
Yeah, you need to manual spreadsheet for those, mate.
I did. I used to have one, but I stopped.
We all did, didn't we? I've got one that I sporadically update.
I even went to, like, you know me, I'm not a coder, but I went to the trouble of writing out like the little equations to make the columns add up and everything in Excel. I know, check me out.
You'll be writing a little script.
I know.
To sort it. That is good. Yeah, I've got one that I every now and again think I really need to update it, and then I spend like 2 hours updating it with like Steam Pit and then leave it again. And it gets out of date. But I think I've got like about 800 and something. You know, you just start to think this is ridiculous. Like I could literally play games from this moment until I die, and I'll never play them.
Never run out.
That's part of the fun, though, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I've moved into books now as well, so I'm building up a pile of shame of books as well. So, don't know. Maybe I am a collector.
Jim is going to need a separate house.
Yeah.
Hopefully, your missus doesn't. We don't worry, mate. She won't listen, and your secrets are safe with us.
Yeah, and she doesn't very often venture in here either. So
exactly. Right, mate. Let's get into talking about some Castlevania. But before we do that, we need to thank the lovely Retro Asylum patrons. Now, you've not done this before.
Oh, I've done it once.
But you know the drill.
We did it on Donkey Kong, I think.
Oh, did you?
I think we did.
Oh, there you go. Well, you're a veteran then. You take the first one, and I'm hoping this means that you did the last one, but it remains to be seen. This is a long list, so we're going to rattle through these wonderful list of people. And Jim, take it away.
Well, at the top of my list, I've got Dean Swain, but I'm guessing he's not a Patreon and a podcast. So
no, mate, because he's the one who posted
he's the one who posted the message.
Are you buffering?
So the first one is Richard Hyde.
Kingdiesel.
Roger Swan.
Shot to Bits.
Plasticman.
God. Billy Bumptious with the Scrumptious Rumptious.
Easy for you to say. Cillian O'Brien.
Robert Ilott.
MrRockitt.
Pete Rogers.
Rune P.
Our friends over at the New Game Old Flame podcast.
Christopher Bolton.
Damon Crockett.
Dylan Dodge.
Bitmap Soft.
Mike's Vintage Tech.
Derek Young.
Nick.
Howard Price.
Matthew Turner.
Adam Hinde.
Chris O'Regan.
James Dunn.
Hans, a.k.a. Muppets 4.
Loshi. Do you like that, right? Yeah. Now I'm learning Japanese, you see, so I can say his name properly. Loshi. MSX.
Guto Threadbare.
Chris Atwill.
Harvey Watson.
My Lord and Saviour on Zelda Oracle of Seasons, Chris Atwill.
Yeah, and I love the little sort of hint system that he's got.
He's brilliant.
There,
he's my own little version of UHS. He's superb.
Harvey Watson.
Martyn Jones.
Tim T.J. Walker.
Ricardo Engel.
HeavyMetalDon.
Tony Parkinson.
Dr. No Vocal Cords.
Mal Woods.
Kane and Rince.
Lambton Worm.
Salvio Calabrese.
Mitsuyama.
Reese Wynn.
Clint Humphrey.
Kit, our own Kit, Mark Byland.
Get well soon, Mark. Paul Ashton.
Chris Rowe.
John Shepherd.
Laurent Giroux.
The good man Deadlock. He's coming to your ears soon because hopefully he's going to join us on the Namco Evercade episode.
Nice. Mr. Evercade himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Aaron Morpin.
Jim-OrbitsIT.
John Veal.
Thomas Goffham.
Patrick First.
Laurence.
Andy Gilmore, our own playthrough Andy Gilmore.
The big man. Stephen Stuttard.
Matt Sullivan.
Darren Coles.
Gary Heather.
Nick Lees.
Oh, my word.
And not Blake Brett, but take it away, Jimbo. This is Blake, so you can thank him a crash.
Benedictus McFluffernutter von Quizzletwist III, Esquire, Grand Poobah of Peculiar Puns, Custodian of Chuckles, and Spam.
Well done, mate. Very well said. And a great name. That is otherwise known as Blake Brett.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll see a crash.
Indeed.
In a few weeks' time, yeah.
In November, yeah, for sure. Well, thank you to everyone who keeps the lights on here at Retro Asylum after all these years. We really couldn't do it without you. Right, now, without further ado, we are going to talk some Super Castlevania 4. So, a little bit of context for this episode. So, obviously, the game club in its former guise is on hiatus until we decide that it's not. So, with having a little bit more time, what I'd like to do is probably not for every game, but we've had this community playthrough going on. For those listeners who aren't on our Discord channel, what that basically means is that we're playing every game ever made in order. No, it's not every game. We are taking 5 series: Legend of Zelda, Metroid, Metal Gear, Final Fantasy, and Castlevania. And we have, for the past 2.5 years, been playing through those games in order of release. So, yeah, we started right at the start of all the series. So for Castlevania,
and before that, we went through all the Mario games, didn't we?
So starting about 4 years ago, we played every single Mario game back-to-back in order. And we got as far as pretty much everything up to Wonder, didn't we? That obviously wasn't out. But
yeah.
I think
that wasn't out by then. And Odyssey, we didn't play Odyssey, did we?
Yeah, we did.
Did we play Odyssey?
Yeah, because I played Odyssey for the second time as part of that series. So yeah, this is a crazy endeavor, but to be fair, we've stuck with it. There are people who most people dip in, dip out, right, depending on the game. Yeah. I've played every single one of the suckers. I haven't completed every game because some of those earlier Castlevania games were and will always be beyond my skill level. But I have at least had a damn good go at every single one of the games so far. And we're actually starting to get to some good games.
Some good Castlevania games.
Well, just some good games, Jim. I mean, we've played some stinker. Look, I love the 8-bit Final Fantasies, but I can completely understand that playing an Famicom or an NES Final Fantasy game is a tough sell for many people. So playing Final Fantasy VI a couple of months ago felt like a complete reward for all of those hours spent playing Final Fantasy II. And similarly, getting to Super Castlevania 4 feels like a massive reward for enduring the Game Boy games.
Oh, good. And and the NES games. So I at least tried all of the Castlevania games up to this point. And I didn't get... The furthest I got was Castlevania 1. The rest of them were literally like 2 or 3 or 4 levels in, and I was like, I'm done. I'm done with this.
Castlevania 3 isn't a bad game, though.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
Yeah, it's they're very difficult. I mean, I completed the 2 Game Boy games with save states. I think I completed the second Game Boy game. I definitely completed the first one, which takes about 20 minutes. Castlevania 2, I actually finished. I mean, with the help of a guide, I actually quite enjoyed. I'm one of those weird people, though. I like Zelda 2. I quite enjoyed Castlevania 2.
I won't admit to that, Chris.
I do. Like, I really like Zelda 2 and Castlevania 2. Although, yeah, I mean, it's inscrutable at times. Like, and you definitely need a guide. But with a guide, actually, I thought it was good fun. The Game Boy games are the real nadir, I think, with Castlevania. I think Castlevania 3 is really difficult, but it's a really good game, I thought. I didn't complete Castlevania 3. I didn't complete the original Castlevania, but I did give them a reasonable shake. I've been looking forward to playing Super Castlevania for well, I don't know, but what's your history with the game before we played it this month?
So I hadn't really got into any of the Castlevania series until we started playing it with the community playthrough. And then I like to say I've played up to this point with the Castlevania games without finishing any of them. Castlevania 4 was a bit different because it's one of those games that I bought it on the Wii because it came out on the Wii.
It's popped up on various virtual consoles over the years.
Yeah, I've got it on the 3DS because it came out. I'm sure it came on the 3DS e-store. And so it's one of those games that I seem to pick up, play the first couple of levels, and then put it down. Yeah. So this is the first time that I've ever finished a game.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, so I had a reasonable stab at it when the Super Nintendo Mini came out.
Oh, yeah.
because it's built into that here in Europe. I don't think it's on the Japanese edition though.
Is it not? That's weird.
But I know certainly the European version definitely does have it. So that's when I had a go, and I remember enjoying it. But it's one of those when I was kind of just going through and having a go at every single game on that. I didn't spend too long on it.
Yeah.
But I haven't played a lot of Castlevania at all before then. I mean, obviously since then I've played, as I've just described, the 8-bit Castlevanias, and also for the Game Club played Symphony of the Night. If you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to Mads and I talk about Symphony of the Night. Now, I enjoyed Symphony of the Night. I didn't love it. I really enjoyed the first third of it. But by the end was kind of like a bit down on the game. And I kind of missed the more traditional Castlevania structure, actually. As opposed to that kind of, that the old Metroidvania, the gated exploration type game, and with the slight RPG elements. I wanted Symphony of the Night looking game, but in a more kind of traditional Castlevania structure. And I feel like with Super Castlevania, it's kind of what we've got. So I was looking forward to really giving it a really good go this month. And I went into it, actually, my kind of feeling going in was, right, I'm going to finish this. And I'm going to finish it legitimately. Like, I don't want to do any of this stuff. I want to do it without save states. I want to do it properly because, compared to the NES games, right, it's quite gentle. Like, you have unlimited credits. You have a password system. You might have to bash your head against the wall, but it's doable.
I don't know. Like that, the back end of this game is savage.
Tough.
It is savage, the back end of this game. Like I fired it up earlier on. So I played it on the Switch when I was on holiday, and then I fired it up earlier on the Mister, and I sailed through like the first 3, maybe even 4 levels, sailed through, and then the back end of this game. I don't know. People call this easy, but I don't see it. The back end of this game is ridiculously tough.
I mean, look, some people say it is easy, but some people would say the original Castlevania is easy, and some people would say Dark Souls is easy. So there's always going to be those ones who would say this is easy. What the point I think I'm trying to make is not that I think the game is easy, but I think it's more accessible than the original games. Like with the original games, you pretty much had to go through the whole game. If you had credits, they were limited, so you might get 2 or 3, you lose those, and you're right back to the start. So if you're going to play it legitimately, you've got to be ready to keep going right back to the start. I mean, this has a detailed password system so that you can just pick it up. Or, like we did, if you're playing it on the Switch, because you played it on the Switch, right?
I did, mate, yeah.
So I played it on the Switch, on the absolutely brilliant Castlevania Anniversary Collection.
Yeah.
And I would say to anybody who's got a passing interest in this series, if you do not own the Castlevania Anniversary Collection, you really do need to pick it up.
Yeah.
I mean, it often appears in sales. I've got it on the Switch, but it's on the PlayStation as well. I think it's on the PC as well.
Yeah, it's on Steam, yeah.
And there really is no excuse not to have it. It's got about 8 games included. You get a lovely little booklet which contains the manuals of the games. It contains some development history as well. It's an absolute. It's M2, so the emulation is absolutely spot on. It's even got Kid Dracula, which was never released in English before that was released. It's absolutely superb. And people really should get it. And of course, they've just released, or they're just about to release, the Dominus collection, aren't they? Which has the 3 Nintendo DS games included.
The DS games, that's it. Yeah, there's already it's not Castlevania, but then you've got the Konami arcade classics as well.
Yeah,
which is another one that's well worth picking up.
Yeah. So I think both were released as part of the 50th anniversary of Konami celebration, weren't they?
Yeah.
But really is, I mean, it's, for anyone who's even a casual fan of Castlevania, I mean, you really should add it to your collection if you haven't already got it.
Yeah.
So that's where I played it. The one issue I had, though, with the Switch is I was playing it. I also was away on holiday, playing this game predominantly or exclusively handheld.
Yeah.
trying to use the Switch Joy-Con as a digital, as a D-pad.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't getting very far with that. What did you use then for when you were playing it? You've got one of those split pads?
I did, but it doesn't. So when I've got that, it doesn't fit in my travel case.
No, I'm the same. So I
use,
was exactly the same.
Yeah, so I had to use a normal Joy-Con. So I was falling through stairs left, right, and centre.
Those flippy platforms, you enjoyed those?
No, flippy platforms, falling through stairs, because you're missing diagonals, which we'll come on to, I'm sure, with the mechanics in this game. Yeah, it was an experience, that's for sure.
So, did you find that your fingers just naturally travel to the analog stick though when you were using the Joy-Cons?
Yeah, I did, but I think that's more to do. It's not because I prefer that over a D-pad or anything like that. It's just because of where it's positioned. Yeah,
exactly. Just natural. Just feels more natural, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Whereas if I'd got a D-pad up there, that would have felt the natural place rather than use. Do you know what I mean? It was just because of where my thumbs sit on the Joy-Con, I think.
So when I got back from holiday, I bought one of these Hori Split Pad Pros. Man, where has that been for the last 6 years of owning a Switch?
Yeah.
That is absolutely superb. The D-pad on that is absolutely spot on. It made such a difference to the way I was playing this game.
Yeah, yeah. I think the next Switch has got to have a D-pad for me. It's got to.
Yeah, did you see on Discord that Roushi, I'm reversing back to the more conventional way that we say Roushi now. Did you see Roushi posted on Discord, he's got on his Joy-Con, it's been almost like 3D printed, or it's been altered, so a proper D-pad has been put in.
Yeah.
That looked good, didn't it?
Yeah. Which is, the only reason it's not is obviously because for multiplayer, isn't it? So you can detach the Joy-Con and play multiplayer, but
of course, I was just thinking to myself,
but it could still work. I think it'd still work with a D-pad.
Yeah, it would be a bit weird though, wouldn't it?
It'd be a bit weird, yeah.
You're right, of course, so you can put the Joy-Con horizontally and use the. That's exactly it, isn't it? That's exactly why it's like that. But Castlevania needs a D-pad. Super Castlevania 4. If you're going to play it and you don't want to be frustrated as hell, you need to play it with a proper D-pad.
Yeah, because I suppose one of the big main things with this now, you can control the direction of the jump of the whip as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, in 8 directions.
Yeah.
We will come on to the to some of the changes and some of the mechanics and how maybe that's what gives it a reputation for being a little bit more accessible. Just a little bit more background. So the game originally released for the Super Nintendo in 1991. Akumajo Dracula, it's known as in Japan. Over in the West, it was a little bit of censorship. They get blood, we get acid. And then strange things I think it's in level 6 when you first go into the castle. There are statues in the background, which in the Japanese version are naked.
Oh.
And for the West, they decided that they needed to cover those up. Strange censorship decisions. Would anybody even really notice that those statues in the background were naked?
Yeah, I know. It's still going on, though, isn't it?
It does still go on, yeah. And it was going on in the early 90s. And as Jim said, it got later releases for the Wii Virtual Console. That was the first re-release following the release in 1991, the first time it got re-released. Incredibly, really, 15 years.
Yeah, there's so many classics came to that Virtual Console, weren't there, on the Wii?
Yeah, it just shows, doesn't it? We've just said about the Switch scrapped it, but what an amazing thing that Wii Virtual Console was.
Oh, yeah.
Because for the first time, we were getting these re-releases of these amazing Super Nintendo classics.
And then there was Japanese games that had only come out in Japan, and they were getting brought out to the Wii with an English translation.
It was so exciting, wasn't it? Mid-noughties time was so exciting.
Yeah.
Obviously now by now these games you can play them in a multitude of different ways. But in 2006 when this released for the Wii Virtual Console, it was big news.
Yeah, and there was that excitement of logging onto the Wii store to see what had come out.
Yeah, it was. It was really cool. It got re-released in 2013 for the Wii U Virtual Console, and this represents the first time when we in PAL territories could buy the NTSC ROM. So my understanding is that the release for the Wii Virtual Console was the PAL ROM, 50 hertz, and all of that. Yeah, I think there is some school of thought which say that the game actually plays better, slightly slowed down. You get on those flippy platforms, for instance, you get a little bit more.
I don't know, mate. Like at the time, I wouldn't have known any difference, but
yeah, now
Simon moves pretty slow at 60 hertz. Can you imagine how slow he'd move at 50? Like a pensioner.
You can see all of those 3 frames of animation he has when he walks,
like on a walking stick or something.
Exactly. In 2016, it got released for the new Nintendo 3DS, again through the Virtual Console. And in September 2017, it came out as part of the Super NES Classic Edition. And then finally, 2019, it got the Anniversary Collection for all what were then contemporary platforms. So by this point now, it's a very accessible game. You can get it pretty much on every platform that is available. Which begs the question why it took us so long to play it. But play it now, we have. So
it came to the UK in '92, yeah.
Yeah,
so it came out.
It
made its way over to the UK in '92, and I was just having a look at some of the games that came out in '92 across like the Mega Drive and the Super Nintendo.
Context.
Yeah, so like Mario World, obviously.
Yeah.
Now this is UK. Obviously, we got everything later than in the UK and Europe. We got everything later than Japan and the US. So yeah, we had Mario World, F-Zero, A Link to the Past, Final Fight, which was a big deal back then. Super Ghouls and Ghosts, Street Fighter 2. On the Mega Drive, Streets of Rage 2, World of Illusion, Desert Strike, Echo the Dolphin, Sonic 2.
It wasn't a bad year.
It was pretty good, wasn't it? It's not a bad year, that. And then you had all the...
I didn't know anyone with the Super Nintendo in 1992, though, did you?
I'm trying to think. My cousin had a Super Nintendo, but I can't remember if it was 92 or not. And I just remember he had Joe Mac Caveman Ninja and Street Fighter 2, yeah. But everyone had a Mega Drive.
Yeah,
everyone had a Mega Drive or a Master System that I knew. I knew one kid who had an Amiga. That was it. Yeah, I only knew one person who had an Amiga.
See, like all my mates had Amiga. Very few had consoles. I can remember one person, and that was actually a friend of my dad's. It was an adult. It was a friend of my dad's who had a Super Nintendo, and I remember playing the likes of Super Mario World and Super Tennis. Yeah. Was the game that so every time I used to go to his house, he'd say, "Do you want a quick game of Super Tennis?" But it was actually my dad's mate who had the Super Nintendo, and he didn't have children. Obviously, it's different for an adult. You know, you could buy these things, but I mean, that's interesting context, and what a year it was, 1992 for games. Because it's also probably worth pointing out that I read there's a brilliant interview making of in Retro Gamer 119 with the main programmer of Super Castlevania IV, and he was saying that they basically coded this game on a Famicom.
No way.
Because they started working on the game in 1989. Oh, and the only thing they had was like the memory map of the Super Nintendo. They didn't even have a dev kit for it. So they were building the game on the Famicom, but they were mapping it onto the memory of the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
And were kind of almost imagining some of the things that they would be able to do when they actually got their hands on the...
I wonder how much of that code still exists as like an NES playable...
Well, have you heard about the... there is a build of this game that was... there is footage of this game out there now. I had a look on YouTube earlier, a really early build of it, and I don't know kind of where this footage was published, but it shows the game in a much earlier form, and it's completely different. I mean, it looks more like an 8-bit Castlevania game. It's definitely worth seeking out if you can. It looks completely different.
I can't imagine this as an NES game. I just can't. Like some of the stuff this game is doing. Like when you compare it to those other games that are out in that same, none of them. Maybe F-Zero was doing, and Mario does a little bit with rotation stuff, but like this is doing stuff that nothing else on a console that nothing else is doing.
Oh yeah, I mean there are amazing set pieces, but when you look at like the way the character, like the way Simon Belmont and the enemies are animated, I definitely think you can see the 8-bit roots there, because he still moves he still moves like some kind of like rotten corpse, doesn't he?
Like he's walking through treacle.
He does.
Yeah.
Like he does, like as you said earlier, like it's not. I mean, although the game is much more fluid and reactive than the NES games, I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean,
but you can almost feel like every jump is an effort. You can almost hear him like sort of like jump.
Like what's the opposite of a floaty jump?
Yeah.
Because everything just feels so weighty. Like, you know, he swings the whip and it almost feels like an old man like going through. Oh God!
Yeah. Which is all the enemy movement is the complete opposite. The enemies are so quick.
Yeah, but even
some of them are. But
even the enemies, like a lot of the ones that walk, they're not brilliantly animated. But yeah, it's hard to kind of compare it to today's standards. But do you know what I mean? Like, maybe back in 1991 we would have seen this and we would have been blown away by the actual animation. But
I think so. Yeah.
You know, compared it to something like, you know, what Virgin were doing with the likes of Aladdin and Lion King, not all that much later than this. You know, this feels so stiff and rigid and restrictive by comparison, doesn't it? Like just the control of the character in your hands.
Yeah.
But as you say, like where the game shines through in the visual department is more like the set pieces, the effects, like that point where you're in that stage is stage 4 and like you get that mode 7 rotation.
That's it. Yeah.
And you've got to hold on to the hook as the stage rotates around.
Right. And I think that again we'll get there with the mechanics, but again that sort of creaks a little bit, doesn't it? Some of those things. Yeah,
mechanically, all you're doing is you're just pressing a button to hold on. But it's striking, isn't it? Like the chandeliers swinging, that one where you got to jump for a chandelier. Again, like mechanically, God, it's ropey because it's a bit unforgiving. You know, you need like almost pixel perfect jumping. But like in terms of like how striking it is, again, going back to what we were saying earlier about the PlayStation, you know, if you'd gone round to your mate's house and he'd said, "Oh, look at Castlevania, come see this level I'm on now," and he'd showed you that,
Right, I've not played Symphony of the Night, but I can't imagine some of these set pieces. Obviously, they'd be times 10 sort of thing, but they wouldn't look out of place on a PlayStation.
No, they wouldn't. I mean, you didn't play Symphony of the Night when we
play it. No, because I was waiting for when it comes to the community playthrough. I think I was playing something else as well. So
yeah, that's a beautiful looking game. Crikey! I mean, as much as I've got complaints about, you know, the way the design of the game, but that is an incredible looking game. And by the time you get to that stage, that you know, the animation on the main character is as smooth as anything.
Yeah,
you know, compared to this, which is stodgy and clunky, and but like Symphony of the Night is, you couldn't put that animation on the main character into this game. It just simply wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And whereas you couldn't put this Simon Belmont into Symphony of the Night because the whole game is designed around it, you know. But I think you know, animation issues aside, I think it's a stunning game to look at. Absolutely stunning. Like the pixel art is amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, some of like the parallax in some of the levels, and the one that stands out to me, there's the river level. I think it might be stage 3, where say you're on the river, but then it looks like you've got like 4 or 5 layers going off in the background with the caves and everything else. It's just amazing.
Yeah,
when you look at like Mario World, and I know there's like as a direct comparison, like this, although the animation's nowhere near as fluid, but do you know what I mean? This looks.
Yeah, I mean, that looks primitive by comparison.
It does, yeah.
You get the impression that the developers were like, this new platform is amazing. What else can we do?
Yeah.
Like, what else can we do? How can we... What other stuff can we play with? Let's do some rotating platforms. Yeah, let's make a clock tower where you've got something coming up. from the bottom, like, let's have all of these visual flourishes. They don't all translate to amazing gameplay. But some of the fine pixel art, I really, really like. I think it's an amazing game to look at.
Oh yeah, 100%. And this is obviously early Super Nintendo as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think in terms of like its visual presentation, it's like it's different to Symphony of the Night, but I mean, in some ways, I prefer this kind of chunkier pixel look. As beautiful as Symphony of the Night is to look at. There's something about this like early 16-bit chunky pixel art that I just really, really like. And then when you add in the music on top of that, it does create this like amazing, like really, really lovely gothic, thick gothic atmosphere, doesn't it? I wouldn't say the game's scary, like, because it's not. I wouldn't say it's not a horror game, but it does create this like, you can't help but feel a little bit cold, when you're playing it. Like,
I think the difficulty level with some of those later bosses is pretty scary.
Yeah, it's horrific. That's it. What did you make of the music overall?
Really, really good. Looking back as well, there's some remixes of Castlevania 1, 2, and 3 really tracks cool in there that are fantastic. I think they're all on Spotify as well. So go and check them out on there. Yeah, like again, the audio is just fantastic. Really,
you just need to if you're going to do that on Spotify, you just need to search by its Japanese name, Akumajo Dracula. But if you do that, you will you'll definitely find the sound. I was listening to it today. And it's really, really good. The only thing I would say about the music, as much as I really do like the music, and I think it's really good at creating an atmosphere, like I think there's some really cool like lower key tracks that aren't remixes of earlier Castlevania games. The only thing I would say is like at the back end of the game, you start to get the classics, don't you?
Yeah, that's where it kicks in, yeah. And
it throws in the bloody tears, like, you get all of the bangers.
Yeah.
My only criticism would be that I don't particularly like the arrangements of like the previous Castlevania tunes.
Okay.
Like I think it gives it like it's a little bit of. I was listening to the Kane and Rinse podcast on this day, and they got a spot on. Actually, it kind of like almost like it passes those tunes like through a jazz filter.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
and they're a bit softer, like, and they're a bit more like loungy than. Like I love like Bloody Tears when that debuted in Castlevania 2. And you can just imagine, I mean, I'm not really a big fan of metal music, but you can just imagine like a metal band playing it and it would be unreal.
Yeah.
Like, this is a bit more like Copacabana. Do you know what I mean?
I know where you're coming from. The Super Nintendo, especially like Pilot Wings, is a classic, isn't it?
And that's brilliant at that.
Like jazzy sort of
lounge jazz kind of.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from, yeah.
And I don't know whether it was a deliberate like arrangement thing with the instrument choices or whether it was a look, if you put this through a Super Nintendo, that's the way it comes out. But I don't know, like, because Chris Atwill was, like always, he's always a few steps ahead of me on these games, so he can give me the hint. And when I was coming up to that back end of the game, he was like, "Oh, you've got like all the amazing music is coming up now." I was like, "Oh, I can't wait to like listen on to Castle and Bloody Tears and all that." Like, and I got there, I was like, "Oh, yes, like." Don't really. And some of those later stages, because they're hard, like you're playing them over and over again.
Yeah.
I was starting to get a bit tempted to like actually turn off the music.
Oh, really?
Which is something as you will know, I never do. I don't know. It didn't really work for me.
Oh, so I went the other way really with it. I really enjoyed that. It almost felt like the music got louder towards the end.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I must say,
reaching a crescendo, like with the end of the game.
When you go into that Dracula fight and Bloody Tears kicks in on that final boss, that is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Not the 15th time.
Awful boss fight, but
not the 15th time you face that boss and it kicks in. Yeah, you kind of know what's coming. The other thing with shout outs on the music as well is if you're into OC Remix. So on ocremix.com, if you search for Super Castlevania 4 or Akumajo Dracula, you will get some really cool remixes, jazz, metal, classical, whatever you like. There's some really good stuff on there. It's well worth checking out. Shout out for the music. The music was composed by Masanori Adachi and Taro Kudo. They are credited somewhat anonymously, as was the style in Japan in the 1990s. But they are the heralded composers of this game, which is very, very popular. In 2017, it got a vinyl release by Mondo. I suspect that now goes for a pretty penny.
Yeah, I imagine so, yeah. Taro Kudo went on to obviously do quite a bit of stuff on Paper Mario.
Did he?
Paper Mario series, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Not always like as audio.
Okay.
But yeah, they've got credits on a lot of the Paper Mario games.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Whatever we think of it, the audio and the soundtrack is super popular. Apparently, this is a remake of the original Castlevania.
Yeah, I read that, but it didn't. I didn't feel
really
like it when I was playing it.
No, didn't really register with me. No. Like, this is up there with the Metroid series for me. Is I could not care less about the lore, the story. Not interested.
No,
I can't.
Each game feels like its own thing, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'm. In fact, I'm the same with the Zelda series. I couldn't really care less about the timeline, and each.
Oh God, don't say that, Chris. You're going to upset the Zelda. You don't want to upset the Zelda community.
But you know what I mean? I love narrative in games. Most games I come to for the story, but there are some games which I'm not there for the story. I'm not a Castlevania.
Not the Zelda timeline. Mate. That Hyrule Historia's got a timeline in it, written by Nintendo, and people still pulled that apart and told them that no, you're wrong.
And I love that book, Hyrule Historia. I love it, but I couldn't care less about the timeline splits at this point. Like, I don't know. I mean, not at one point playing this game did it occur to me that this was a remake of the original. No. It was only when I got to the castle, and that kind of the first castle level, because the way these levels are split, the first 5 stages are apparently the run up to the castle.
Yeah.
And then from stage 6 onwards, that is then almost like the remake elements of the game. And I did recognise that bit, like running through the castle at first. I did recognise that, okay, yeah, this is... I just thought, oh, yeah, this is similar to the first stage of Castlevania. But no, I didn't. It didn't register, nor did I... Would I have particularly cared that this was a remake?
No.
If you want story, it's all there in the manual. You can go and read it. It gives you a couple of pages of background. I suppose some context for what you're doing. If you need it, it is nice. Again, it's there if you want it. I don't really feel like we should...
Did you have a preference to... Because like you say, it's split into sort of 2 halves. Did you have a preference to either half of the game? Or?
Yeah, for sure preferred the castle.
Oh, did you? I preferred the first half, I think. Yeah.
Why? Because it was easier.
Yeah, it was easier. And it was more varied as well. So, yeah, you're in caves and you got the river and the swamp.
Yeah, but the castle looked amazing, mate.
It did look, all the technically impressive set pieces are definitely they feel back end, like they're backloaded, yeah.
Like, I love that level, with the dancers, where the ghost dancers as the boss. I think that's stage 6, isn't it?
Yes.
You've got what are their names? It's like Paula Abdul and Fred Astaire. Jesus Christ! But I like that
get
level.
Away with it in them days.
I know how did they get away with it? Like some of these, have you seen like some of these the boss names? Like one of them is called. Hang on, I've got it written down. Where is it?
Whilst you're looking, I will say like the boss fights. Some of there's 2 extremes of the boss fights. I think that most of them are enjoyable. The stuff like the Medusa fight, and I think they're pretty enjoyable. For
I like them.
Part. Yeah,
like
apart from the last couple.
The level 4 mid boss is called Puixil, and so this is a skull that will hit you with a lashing tongue. If you spell that backwards, it's called Licks You Up. And the level 4 M boss is a huge rock monster called Coronot. If you spell that backwards, it's Ton of Rock.
Yeah.
But Fred Astaire and Paula Abdul is the best. Yeah, they're certainly having some fun with some of the enemy names. Like Mr. Head, apparently, is that is a play on the Mr. Ed from TV in the 70s.
Okay.
So they are having some fun. But what did you make then? So you preferred the first half just because you preferred the level structure.
Preferred the variation in the levels, and the difficulty felt right.
Felt right. How did you find it to play though? Because this is famously, this does things that the original Castlevania doesn't. You can control the arc of the jump. You can shoot your whip in 8 different directions, so the cardinals and the diagonals. You've got the dangly, which is a bit weird. Never came back. The dangly.
Oh, yeah, I know. You can almost use it as like a little bit of a shield, can't you?
Yeah, it can be used as a shield, which I think, certainly in one of the later boss battles is super important. Is it, I don't know, it's Death or Slogger, one of the final bosses, where pretty much you need to use it as a shield. So the idea was here that as a almost like, look, we've got more memory to play with, we can do more things. He can jump onto stairs, for instance, but please do not be careful, because you will fall through.
You will fall through stairs for some bizarre reason.
How did you find it mechanically to play?
So I came into this one, right? So having played the earlier Castlevania games and whinging and moaning about the mechanics in them, I was always looking at the Super Nintendo thinking, that's what... I know people rave about it, don't they, this game? And it's always on these like best Super Nintendo lists. So I was coming into this thinking, right, this is where everything gets resolved in terms of the mechanics. This is where Castlevania gets good.
Yeah.
And then I came into it and I'm like falling through stairs still. You can't jump on stairs still. You've got this knockback when you get hit by an enemy.
Well, you can jump onto stairs. You just can't jump whilst
you can't jump when
them.
You're on the stairs. When you're on the diagonal. You've got reoccurring enemies. So if you go off so you kill an enemy, go off the screen and come slightly back, that enemy will reappear.
Yeah. You can't go far before it does.
No, you've got these bottomless pits where there might be a platform below that you've got to jump to, but you can't jump to that platform unless it's in view.
Yeah, that's right.
Where it's almost not loaded into memory.
Once the stage scrolls up and the platforms disappear off the bottom of the screen, it won't scroll back down.
That's
again.
right. Yeah. So it's got all these. It's still got all these problems, and then the biggest one, one of the biggest ones, is this. There's a time limit. So you come into the game and you've got the levels have got time limits. So you can't methodically take each level as it comes and work your way slowly through the level. And you'd expect it in an arcade game, but not this. So it was a bit of a shock, really, coming into it. I was expecting all these issues to not be there.
Did you lose any lives from running out of time?
Yes.
Yeah, I did
only on a couple of levels though, not very often.
Do you feel like the way they wanted you to play this was like it's meant to be played almost like in a perpetual motion kind of thing?
Always moving forward, yeah.
It does. It feels that way, doesn't it? Like
definitely.
I felt like the times when I was struggling with these levels, and tends to be like the first couple of times, especially at the back end of the game, which does get difficult, especially once you get into like the A level, which is where you're going up the clock tower. Like you tend to just be tentative when you first go into a level, and that's it's almost like the difficulty curve is almost inverse. Because when you first go into a level and you're exploring it and you're trying to figure it out and you're tentatively creeping around, the game feels much harder playing it like that. Whereas when you get familiar with it and you get into this kind of perpetual motion, you find that, I don't know, like it just flows. And that obviously there's an element of familiarization with the stages there, obviously, which brings quicker kind of passage through them. But it just felt like it's like in a Mario game where when you're kind of constantly, the quicker you move, almost the easier it feels.
Yeah, I get. Yeah. You almost get into a flow, don't you?
Like, I feel like it's designed in a way where you really shouldn't be stopping, especially now that you can attack in 8 directions. You really probably shouldn't be stopping to take out individual enemies. You should always be kind of on the go, hitting them on the move and constantly kind of, hitting them whilst you're jumping. And
yeah, maybe. I think especially with that back end, I never got that familiarity with the levels because I resorted to save stating in that back end.
Where did you cheat, mate?
Just to get through the game.
But I completely
because it's too hard.
And then, but like, so the way the levels are structured as well, there tends to be like 2 or 3 different stages, doesn't it? So you go from 4-1, 4-2, 4-3,
yeah,
etc., etc., etc. So if you die, you will go back to and there are checkpoints within those as well, aren't there?
Yeah,
but I found the checkpoints got fewer and further between the more you went through the game, though. Did you find that?
Yeah, and when you lose your lives, obviously you go back to the very start
of the stage, and that can be a right killer.
Yeah, especially if you've used up your lives getting to the end, and then you get to the boss with hardly any health and no lives, and then you just know that you ain't going to do that boss, and you got to rerun the whole thing.
But this is where, like, playing these old games, and I completely understand where you're coming from. So I ended up. So I just give you a bit of stick, but I did end up caving and using save states. And
whereabouts? Where did you break?
So you'll know exactly where I did. That level, I think it might be stage 9, where you've got those disappearing platforms and the spikes falling.
Yeah.
I mean, that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I must have had 20, 25 goes at that. And to be fair, like, the checkpointing wasn't too bad on that. Obviously, when you lose your lives, you went right back to the start. But the checkpoint was not far before that. So it didn't feel like too much of a problem getting to it. But, oh my God, I just could not do it. I just could not do it. And I knew that once I got through there, I never, ever wanted to do that bit again.
Yeah, so that's it, isn't it?
I save stated before and I save stated immediately afterwards. And that was like, hey, I've caved. I've done it. I've caved.
And boss fights as well. I ended up save stating on the last couple of bosses just to get through them because they were just beating me up.
Yeah, but on the last bosses though, I mean, I think you had to do sort of Slogger of Death and then Dracula, isn't there?
Yes. Yeah.
So once you've beaten Slogger and Death, that's where you'd start from every time, just before Dracula.
Yeah. So basically, I ran up. So you go up the little tower, don't you? And then there's a little sort of hidden bit before you go into. Did you find that?
I didn't find that.
Only after reading it on Discord.
Yeah.
I think it was Chris. Might have been Chris Atwill that put it on. It's got
like just like copious. I mean, doesn't it just render the boss trivial if you get all the powers?
So what I did, I save stated just outside the boss fight with full health, maxed everything. So I just didn't have to just keep redoing that section. It just drove me to it.
Yeah. See, I find like with these old games, I mean, and I caved, you caved earlier than me. Just to let it be said. There is an element of repetition, isn't there? I mean, this isn't a massively long game. So I was watching somebody play through it today just to kind of refresh myself on some of the stages. And this guy, obviously, he knew the game. I mean, it wasn't like he was dying and he was using credits, but he went from start to finish in about 1 hour and 40 minutes. So, that is how long it would take you to get through it. But from scratch, it's going to take you God knows how many hours. But you've got to be prepared to invest in that, and you've got to be prepared to go through the repetition on the stages, because the game is meant to kill you, right? I mean, if you didn't, you'd hire this from Blockbuster in 1991, and by the end of your sleepover, you've completed the game. So it needs to have some element of it needs to have some point where it gets hard, so that you do end up repeating stages. And I went into this fully committed. to completing this properly. I thought, right, no, I'm going to get this. Isn't known to be one of the hardest Castlevania games. I'm going to get good enough to do it. So, and right up to level 9, I was, and there was elements of like, there was sections of stages I'd done 9, 10 times. And you do start to feel that like sense of mastery over things that previously you had found difficult, and that's quite a cool feeling.
It is, but at the same time, did you ever play Bloodstained?
No.
that was I did. There was 2, weren't there?
Ritual of the Night.
There was, and then there was it Rondo of Blood, which was like the 8-bit version.
Rondo of Blood is the Castlevania game, isn't it? But I know what you mean.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. It was, which one was it? It was one of them was the 8-bit version.
I know what you mean.
And that does it really well in that it puts you back to like a stage, but not all the way back.
Yeah.
So that does it really well. And I imagine like the newer Castlevania games probably have changed the way they do it.
It's a progression, isn't it, from that really brutal Castlevania 1, you go back to the start of the game, son, and you better like it because that's all you've got. It's a progression, isn't it, that, even by the mid-90s, only a few years after the original Castlevania, we're already getting these concessions against difficulty. You don't have to go back to the start. You never have to go back to the start of the game with this. You just go back to the start of the stage. That's the worst that can happen.
Yeah.
So
and then even if you switch it off, you've got the password to put you back to where
exactly.
You were. Yeah.
So even within 5 years, like we're starting to find that these things are starting to get more accessible. And I think when people, when the hardcore the hardcore 8-bitters complained about this, I suspect it's not over the difficulty because some of the bits in this game are really, really difficult. I suspect it's more that overall sense of punishment if you get something wrong. Like, you're not going back to the start of the game, you're going back 10 minutes of gameplay that you may have to do over and over again, but that's still your worst case scenario, is that you're only going back 10 minutes. That's a massive difference.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
But,
it's the same arguments, I suppose, isn't it? They're still being had now. Well, like we had with Dark Souls, some people who say Dark Souls 2 is not as hard as Dark Souls 1, but...
Yeah. And you're always going to get that.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
They're almost damned, the teams who make these games are almost damned if they do and damned if they don't, because if they don't put these features in, you're going to alienate a lot more gamers than you're going to alienate by keeping it. The best thing to do is to allow people to control it themselves. If people want to use these things, it's like in I forget the example now I was going to make from Dark Souls 2, but there's something in Dark Souls 2 when we were saying, well, you don't have to use it.
Yeah.
It was like some of the rings and stuff. Well, you don't have to use them if you don't want to. If you want to make this a really, really brutal, hardcore experience, knock yourself out. You can go and do it.
Yeah.
But if people want to make it a bit more accessible, they can. If you wanted to try and one-credit Super Castlevania 4 right from the start, of course you can.
You can.
Just hit reset every time you die, and there you go, you've done it. What's interesting, though, if you look at all of the mods on romhacking.net, they're all ways in which, well, most of them, there are a couple of like Redux, and remixes, but a lot of them are like no candles.
Okay.
Yeah, like hard mode, like buffing the bosses, like giving the bosses like double the number of hit points. And so, I was listening on the Kane and Rinse episode, McKeel Croder over there. He was saying that he and his brother got this on the Friday of a weekend, and by the Sunday night they finished it twice. So I don't know. You need to
but then if you're not switching off your Super Nintendo and you're repeating the levels over and over again, you're going to get that muscle memory, aren't you? So I can see that being a thing. Yeah.
For us playing this in 2024, the problem is that all the while we're playing, something like this, which we're enjoying, but there's Tears of the Kingdom over there and stuff. There's plenty of other things that are competing for our time, and that's the thing, isn't it? Would you rather repeat the same section of 5-minute gameplay for 2 hours, or would you rather go and play Astrobot?
Yeah, I think you see those cracks more, don't you, than what you would do.
Yeah, we got less patience for it, mate.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah,
we've got less patience for it. There's more pulls on our time because we're grown-ups and we've got life to do. If we were 12 playing this game in 1991 together over a weekend and we didn't have anything else to do, you would just blitz it, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And you get good enough. So yeah, I'm a little bit some and some on the difficulty. As I said, I went into this with the best intentions of doing it legitimately and failed. Because it just got to the point where I got so frustrated that I just couldn't possibly face doing it and then dying at the boss and having to do it again. I couldn't face it.
Yeah, but I don't mind using a save state. If it means that I'll get through a game, then I don't mind using it.
And you see the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't mind. Whereas, I know you try.
Oh, no, I was only.
You try, but you try not to use them, don't you?
Well, I try and put myself in. I try and put myself in the place that I would have been in had I picked it up.
Yeah, back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I like using real hardware. I like the original controllers because I like to. Yeah, it's impossible for us to go back now and relive that moment, but I just like to make it feel as authentic as possible.
Yeah.
And the moment you start to use rewind features or save states, once you do it once you cave, you break it, don't you? It's
It's like the video game version of heroin, is it?
Yeah, a little bit. It's once you do it once, it's I've done it now, haven't I? I might as well, I've done some weed, I might as well reach for the crack kind of thing, go all in. But as you say, if it's a difference between not using them and not seeing the game, I would much rather use the save state and see the whole of the game.
Yeah.
Any other particular points of frustration with the gameplay, or any other points that you can distinctly remember thinking that was really good?
So I've mentioned obviously the last couple of boss fights. That tunnel, I think, where you walk through and you got the tunnel rotating around you.
Oh yeah,
it just blew my mind.
Yeah, it's so good.
That was happening, because I don't remember seeing that up until that moment where I actually saw it in the game. I don't remember seeing it before obviously, you watch these YouTube videos and you're aware of all these all the talk around all these games, but I don't remember seeing that. So seeing that for the first time was it literally blew me away,
so cool.
As much as it would have done seeing it back in the day.
Yeah, it was. It's really good. I've heard it talked about loads on other podcasts, so it was really cool to kind of experience it in game.
Yeah.
Again, you need to put yourself back to the early 90s, don't you? But if you can, imagine how amazing that must have looked. Yeah. What about sub-weapons? Did you use any much?
I did. That's an interesting one, isn't it? So obviously by now we're a good few Castlevania games under your belt, but
familiar with all of this stuff.
Yeah, but if you're not, you're collecting hearts through the game thinking, well, this is going to give me some health.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. Nope. It obviously gives you a shot on your sub-weapon. So these can be blades, knives. There's a boomerang, isn't there, that sort of comes back. There's it's was it a water of life or something like that?
It's like a firebomb, isn't it?
Firebomb sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them feel like that. The firebomb feels completely useless.
Yeah, but that was so useful against so many of the bosses in the old Castlevania. Was it really?
So I didn't take it into a single boss fight.
I don't think I used it once. I can't even remember having it once in this game, never mind using it effectively.
The knives came in quite useful because you can keep things at distance. You can hit things at distance.
Just doesn't do much damage, does it? That's the problem.
No. But if you're collecting all your hearts from these candles as you go, you'll be taking a lot of because you don't generally need to use the sub weapons during the game, do you? During the main sort of stage, I was tending to save them up for a boss fight.
Yeah, I think that's one of the differences, isn't it? Is that because you've got the 8-way whip, you can generally kind of manage your environment, whereas things like the axes, for instance.
Yeah.
The axes was useful in the old Castlevanias because if something was above you, other than kind of jumping and hitting it with your whip, the axe was the only way in which you could hit something that was above you.
Yeah.
Whereas now you just stand underneath them and hit them and it makes the axe pretty much completely useless.
Yeah, but you still do get that and not that frustration of where you'll be going to hit an enemy, and then all of a sudden it'll change its trajectory at the very last minute. You'll miss it, and then it will hit you a few times.
Yeah,
before you can get that shot in. So that is still.
Yeah, it does make like my point of getting stuck and being frustrated with this game was not because other than the odd boss fight, in particular, the final bosses, was more with the platforming than the combat.
Yeah.
I found that the combination of the 8-way attack and then when you needed it, the dangly thing, the dangle whip. I felt like that was enough. I had enough tools without using the sub weapons that I could pretty much cope with every combat scenario.
Yeah, I think for me, I'd upgrade that dangly whip if you could make that a little bit more powerful. I mean, this is what I'm suggesting is going to break the game, but upgrade that.
Yeah,
get rid of the time limit and not being able to jump from a diagonal.
Yeah,
and give Simon a little bit more pace. And I think the platforming would work. I think it'd work a lot better. It'd be really enjoyable.
Did you enjoy the rope swinging?
Not really. No. Again, some of them you'll put your whip out to swing, and what looks like it should work, and you'll just sort of go straight through that grapple point for no sort of real reason.
Yeah, it's a little bit hit and miss, wasn't it?
It is a little bit hit and miss, which on some of the levels you need to you need to basically swing almost like Spider-Man, if you like, through some of the sections, don't you?
Joe, it took me a long time to work out that you could lengthen the whip when you were connected to like a dangle point.
That's right, and which will give you more swing arc. Yeah.
So I honestly, for a long time, I did, and I got to one point in midway through the game, and I was stuck. I could not make this jump, and I was thinking, like, this is impossible. Like, it just cannot be done. I tried and tried and tried, and in the end, I went and looked on YouTube, and I was like, hang on a minute. My whip doesn't look like it. How is he doing this? Like, he's not even jumping; he's just dropping off it. And then I realised that you could make your whip. And then once you do, like, other than a couple of like missed time, and particularly towards the end when you need to make sure, often the problem is that you can end up jumping off a platform, hitting an enemy, being knocked back. Then
that's definitely a thing. Yeah, that knockback is
one of the things you need to be careful of. But once you realise you can lengthen and shorten your whip, I mean, it makes a lot of those swinging bits really trivial. That's another thing that never came back in future Castlevanias. As far as I'm aware, it's not in any other Castlevania game. The whip swinging.
Yeah, I am surprised at that, because that sort of stuff now would work.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, as far as I'm aware, it's never come back. So now that you've been through the 8-bit Castlevanias, you've played Super Castlevania IV.
Yeah.
How do you feel now going on to future Castlevanias?
Interested. Again, it's like
tentative.
It's that carrot that's being dangled, isn't it? It's like this next one's going to be the one that gets good. Yeah. Where they sort out all these mechanic issues.
Don't you feel like you've been through the real dross now?
Oh, 100%. That the 8-bit stuff, yeah.
I feel like we've earned the good Castlevania games, and I do feel like they're coming.
Oh, I mean, like the GBA is meant to have some absolute bangers. So there's the GBA collection, isn't there, of Castlevania games that I mentioned already.
So that's already been out. So next up in Castlevania, so if we don't play Kid Dracula, which was a Game Boy game, which we'll see what the other guys think, but I'm kind of thinking that we treat that as not really Castlevania and skip it. Please. We've got Castlevania Chronicles, but that was a remake of the first one. Another one. Yeah, because there was an original remake that came out for the Sharp X68000. So that was a remake of the original Castlevania. And then, so that came out in 1993, and then that was remade for the PlayStation in 2001. So I'm thinking, right, that's a remake of the original, we just leave that, because I think we've all had enough of the original Castlevania. So really what I'm trying to manufacture is the next game is the PC Engine game, Rondo of Blood.
Right, okay.
And that, so I had a cheeky little go on that, because I came off Super Castlevania 4 thinking...
Am I remembering it right?
That was really good.
Did that get a Mega Drive port as well?
No. I think it later got a Super Nintendo port.
Super Nintendo port, was it? Okay.
But the Mega Drive got its own version, and that's called Bloodlines.
Bloodlines, that's right, yeah.
And that's on Nintendo Switch Online as well. So I think the Super Nintendo port of Rondo of Blood is called Dracula X.
Right.
And
that got a port, didn't it, to PlayStation? I've definitely seen that on PlayStation.
So I think that might have formed part of the Castlevania Chronicles.
The Dracula X Chronicles or whatever it was, yeah.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Gets a little bit complicated with kind of remakes and re-releases, but I think so.
So going forward, I'm not expecting any of with these, because we're going to be playing more 16-bit games, I'm not expecting any of these issues that I've got with a Castlevania to be resolved until GBA or DS.
Well, I mean, the way I see it is that you've got like Chapter 1 of Castlevania is NES and Game Boy.
Yeah.
Pretty ropey these days, difficult to go back to, very, very difficult. You've then got Chapter 2, which is like the halfway house, traditional Castlevania structure, but few modern trappings, looks nicer. So Super Castlevania 4, Rondo of Blood, Bloodlines, that kind of era. And then you've got like Chapter 3, which is Symphony of the Night, and the more kind of, inverted commas, Metroidvania style games. And that's like, I think that's where it sounds like.
Yeah.
I think it sounds like they'll be your jam.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to sound like I'm being too harsh on it, because I think it's definitely worth checking out this game. I just don't think it lives up to the hype that's around it. But come and check it out for some of those those amazing set pieces, the audio.
Yeah, definitely.
But just don't come in expecting the perfect Castlevania game.
No, I mean it's regarded as a classic, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
But I feel like it's regarded as a classic because of the impact it had when it came out.
Yeah, I think maybe I put it on too high a pedestal coming in, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I wouldn't regard it as a modern classic. Like, I wouldn't say you're going to come to this in 2024 or whenever you listen to this. If you've never played Super Castlevania 4, you're not going to play it and think, oh my God, this stands up today as a complete masterpiece of the action-adventure platformer genre. Like, I just don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I do think there's a lot here to appreciate. And I think if you've done what we've done and you've traced it from the NES original and you're going through, I think it's really cool to kind of see the evolution and to see where, like, this is almost like, although you can't call a Super Nintendo game modern, I think you can see that this is almost like the transition, the inflection point between those really old, they do feel old now, even though they were only kind of 3, 4, 5 years before this.
Yeah.
Like, by comparison, they feel ancient, I think, compared to Super Castlevania 4.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
So this, for me, is the point where the series kind of just goes off in a slightly different direction. And again, that would change with Symphony of the Night and that game's sequels, to the point where, culminating in those DS games, which are, by all accounts, stand up today as stone cold classics.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, it's kind of like how Castlevania 64 is that first 3D step before they perfected it. I suppose with like the PS2 games and then the 360 and everything else, isn't it?
Yeah, because I suppose we've got those to tackle as well eventually. And as you say, that transition to 3D, I think, was difficult for Castlevania, but I think in the end it got good, didn't it? I think some of those 3D games are really
they're supposed to be really
now.
good. Yeah, I think they got overshadowed by the Devil May Cry series.
The likes of Lament of Innocence, I think, is supposed to be good, isn't it? And but they're all in our future anyway. I mean, I think, I'll be honest with you, up until this point, of the 5 games that we're playing on the community playthrough, the Castlevania turn was always oh god, it's Castlevania. What now?
Looking back now, then, not like Mike and the Mechanics. If you could, so we've got those 4. We've got the 4 series. Do you take another one out in hindsight for Castlevania, or are you glad you?
No, I'm glad that we play. Yeah. I'm glad that we're doing Castlevania. I am, because they a lot of them are classics of the genre, which I was, hadn't really played. So I'm glad, even though I've not really enjoyed the 8-bit Castlevanias, I'm really glad I've played them.
Yeah.
And now I feel like we're getting our reward now. And now that we're getting into the 90s games, I feel like we're starting to get our reward. And from the little bit I've played of Rondo of Blood, from the little sneak peek I had, that game feels like it's another step up in quality.
Oh, nice.
So even though it's kind of, quasi 8-bit, it's got a much different feel. And the soundtrack on that game, from what I've heard so far, is incredible. So,
I mean, like say that the Bloodlines game.
Yeah, on the Mega Drive.
Definitely go. Bloodlines. Bloodstained.
Oh yeah, the modern
Bloodstained.
One.
But in the 8-bit with that 8-bit style.
Yeah.
It plays like what you'd imagine a modern Castlevania game to play like. Yeah. Definitely go check that out, because that's really good.
It doesn't seem like Nintendo are going to revive the Castlevania IP at any time in the near future, does it? So we need these independent studios to bring us
Well, it's
more.
Konami, I suppose, isn't it?
Sorry, beg your pardon. Yeah, of course, yeah. I mean,
but it always felt like a Nintendo franchise. I know what you mean. It felt like a Nintendo franchise.
Yeah. Well, it does for us at the moment, given that they're the
true. But even like back in the day when you had that the cartoon, was it Captain N?
Yeah.
And that had Castlevania stuff in it. And it feels like a Nintendo franchise. Yeah,
it does. For sure. Yeah, but you're quite right. Of course, it's Konami, and they're absolutely no better than treating their old franchises with the respect they deserve. But the void gets filled, doesn't it, by the indie scene? Like all these things, the indie scene steps in and gives us more of what we love.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing how the series evolves. Anyway.
Yeah,
mate,
nice.
Any shout-outs before we get on out of here?
Just a shout-out to the guys as well, and obviously to Mark, as we've said, get well soon. And looking forward to recording with them all. And it's a massive honour to be asked on board. Yeah,
you won't be saying that once you've recorded with the other louts.
Probably not, no. But there we are.
Although 8-bit Wars,
we've already done that, haven't we?
So. Well, it's. The 2024 edition is in the planning. We can exclusively reveal that planning has started for the Christmas 8-bit Wars. May the Amstrad CPC reign victorious once again.
Ghosts of 8-bit Wars past are already being dug up.
They're jangling their chains.
They are.
Yeah, I just want to echo that. Yes, shout out to the other guys. Shout out to Andy Gilmore. Over on Playthrough Podcast, we're currently playing Prey over there at the moment, the 2017 Arcane game. We just started that, so now is a good time to dip in and join us on Discord should you want to. Matt has even updated the website. He
has.
So it's fair to say he was a bit behind. But he's now got his act together and sorted his life out and updated the website. So thank you very much, mate. Huge shout out to all our patron supporters, to all of the Discord crew, and thank you so much, Mr. Middleton, for joining me in this endeavour.
Pleasure.
We'll see, mate? We'll get back and hopefully talk about some Oracle of Seasons. That'd be good.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Might need to set aside a whole weekend to talk about everything I love about that game, though.
I know. Ages as well.
Exactly.
Oracle
we'll have both things to talk about.
Yeah.
But until then, and until we're probably going to be back, the next one should be the Resident Evil episode coming up pretty soon. And until then, keep it retro Asylum. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.